All right, it's 10 o'clock. Let's get going. So today we're going to talk about the 5 strategies millionaires use to cut taxes by 50% and 5x their wealth. We're going to cover a lot of information today. So I like to kind of jump in and kind of get going because I know everyone's time is valuable. And I see everyone joining in the chat. And so as we're going through, you can type in your questions in the chat. I will go through as many of those as I can at the end as we get through these 5 strategies, but I will make sure to go back through and answer every one of those personally if I don't get to them, in the chat here. So as we start out talking about these 5 strategies, here's kind of the layout is going to go. We kind of start where most people are when I kind of first meet with them and talk with them about financial strategies. They're kind of in this place that doesn't feel safe. They are getting hit really hard with taxes. They might have only one income coming in and their wealth is all in the stock market. So even when you have money, it just creates this kind of unstable market position or unstable feel that a lot of people are going through. And you may resonate with that because, when you go out there, there's so many things that can happen and kind of take you out. You have things like, of course, like taxes, which we're going to talk a lot about today, market crashes, business failures, job changes, pandemics. All these things that go on give people this perpetual feeling where they're just not sure what's going to happen. And so in my 20 plus years of working with high net worth individuals, what I've kind of come to realize that financial security is really all about having a sense of control. And that's what you can kind of see, from the graphic here. It's the ability to control assets, the ability to control taxes, the ability to control income. So we're going to spend time today talking about really those 2 areas. The big ones we're going to focus on is control taxes and control income. But I'd like to get you to think about right now in your own life, in your own financial situation, how many of these areas do you have control over? Are you controlling taxes? Do you have any control whatsoever if the government decides to raise taxes? We know taxes are going to go up in 2026 because the Trump tax cuts are going to sunset. So there's going to be a 2 to 4% increase. But what happens 10, 15 years from now? Do you have any control of what happens? And if something does happen with taxes go up even more, how is that going to affect you? Same thing with assets, same thing with income. So we're going to talk about strategies, the 5 strategies here that can help you build financial security by giving you more control over so many things right now that are currently outside of their control. So let's get going into kind of the strategies, and I'll kind of give you the agenda. So we're going to cover the 5 strategies. I'm going to go through these 5. Those are really going to give you this foundation. So we're going to take the foundation, those 5 strategies, go through them, and then we're going to apply those to some case studies. I'm going to go through that so you can see how these actually apply, in the real world. And with those case studies, we're going to show kind of really some significant, tax savings and stuff on these strategies. One of the case studies, we're going to go over 7 million in tax-free wealth, both in distribution and tax savings, 11 million in tax-free wealth and distribution and tax savings, and 2 million in tax-free wealth and including distributions and tax savings. So while these numbers are big, you don't have to be, in that $10 million range to be able to experience these types of savings. In fact, I'm guessing that most everyone here is in the top 10% or the top 5%. You're going to be just shocked at the amount of impact you can make by when you're able to create tax-free wealth and protect wealth from taxes. So because really taxes are a big threat to wealth overall. And I've been working on this for 20 years. As I mentioned, my name is Denver Noas. I'm president of Wealth for Life. I'm a 20-year advisor and fiduciary. Fiduciary means to me, of course, we're legally bound to operate in clients' best interests, but it also means to me we're not captive to any one particular strategy. My industry, the financial advising industry, does a horrible job teaching people about all the different ways to build wealth because it's very biased toward the stock market. You got $50 grand, you go into an advisor, they say invest in the market. You got 5 million, you go talk to the advisor, they say invest in the market. What I've learned over the last 20 years in working with high net worth people is that most wealth is not made in the market. It comes to the market from other places. It's not to be anti-stock market at all. It's just that's not where most wealth is made. And a lot of my experiences came from in the real world. I ended up taking care of my mom, my dad, and my grandma for about a 10-year period of time before they passed. My mom and my grandma ended up living with me with those health issues later on in life for about 10 years before they passed. And my dad's situation, he had some more major health issues, so I had to manage his care in a nursing home. And I know that a lot of people, a lot of you on the call are probably getting ready to go through those issues with elderly parents. While it is one of the most difficult things you're ever going to go through and challenging, I do feel like I'm a wiser person for having gone through that and being able to spend that time with my parents in the later years. But my dad's situation, he owned a pest control company. It's a company that's still in the family today. And my parents were great parents. They just weren't great together. So they were divorced. My dad lived not far away in a small single wide trailer in one of those 55 and older communities. He was on the edge of it. He ran his pest control business from there, and he built it up to where he had 3 to 4 trucks running. And so back in the early 80s, he was cranking. He was doing really good with that business. And then he got audited. And that was back in the time, early 80s, where the IRS was very, very aggressive. So the IRS agent actually came to his house, came to his trailer, sat on his couch and audited him. If you can imagine that, the auditor's sitting in there, going through the stuff. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And of course, he had audited, small business owner back in the day, didn't have all the resources we have now to keep his taxes in order and got behind on taxes, owed a bunch of money to the IRS. And that really hammered his business down. Because then what did he do? He wanted to fly under the radar, I'm just going to take cash, all these other strategies. And this business scaled down and didn't grow like it was on the path to do. So what I learned in going through that type of stuff is that life doesn't always go as planned. Conventional wisdom isn't always teaching people, the way to plan things. So we're going to get into the 5 strategies here. And a lot of these strategies that we're going to talk about, you're not going to find that much information on Google about. There's specific reasons for that. A lot of these strategies that were really designed for high net worth people, they don't like to advertise them all over the place because, quite frankly, people take them, run them out, put it all over the internet, make the strategy not do what it's supposed to do, oversell it, don't do the same thing, right? And then it gets all messed up. So I've found that a lot of the strategies are a little more private. That's why we've created the Wealth for Life group here on LinkedIn. In fact, this is my big call to action today. A lot of people might be waiting on a webinar for when do I get my big call to action? This is it. Just join the Facebook or the LinkedIn group, become part of the community. That's where I take all the ideas from the high net worth clients I work with. We share those ideas in there and we do our own due diligence. We work together to find the strategies that we can use that can really move the needle. I call 5Xing. Everything we try and do is 5Xing wealth. So you can join that group on LinkedIn. You can go to the wealthforlifegroup.com. That'll redirect you to LinkedIn, or just search the Wealth for Life group on LinkedIn. So as we get into this, we're going to talk first, about taxes. Now, I know that you probably already know this from being on the call, but we have large federal deficits. Federal deficits aren't going down anytime soon. We just saw we just saw our credit rating get downgraded again for the U.S. government. Spending is really over $32 trillion. It keeps going up, in a massive, massive way. So the blue number there you see is debt to GDP, and the national debt just keeps going up. And so when you look at taxes right now, and are they going to go up or are they going to go down? I think no one really thinks they're going to go down. We obviously know, like I mentioned, the Trump tax cuts sunset in 2026. So we know there's going to be an increase already. But right now, the top 10% of Americans pays 70% of all federal taxes, the top 10%. I'm guessing that's most people on the call here. So you already have a tax target on your back. And if we need more revenue, which we obviously do, taxes are going to go up. There's only one place you can get it, and that's in the top 10%. And to me, that's a really big issue because when you start to see the impact of taxes, and this chart right here, these big bars on the right there, the largest bars that you see on the chart right there, is the net worth of the top 1%. So it's a little over 11 million. Now the next bar to the left of that, those 2 bars there, is about 1.2 million. That's the top 10%. So there's a difference of about $10 million between the top 1 and the top 90%, the top 10%, and the top 1. What is the difference there? A lot of that is taxes, because what I think is as people start becoming very successful, meaning you're starting to hit 200,000 in income, 300, 400, and those tax code then really starts to punish you because now you've just gotten into the bracket. You're just starting to create the wealth, those higher levels all the way up into $1 million, and you're just getting pounded by taxes as you go. And it makes it very, very difficult to save. So because the more you make, the more you're taxed. And you've probably experienced this. I remember my first, big check to the IRS. It pretty much sucked, but the taxes are punishing you the whole way. And you feel like you're paddling upstream. And you might have experienced this. You have the year where you get the breakout year, you get the big bonus, and all of a sudden, hey, we got an extra $100,000 this year. You and your wife or your husband, you're talking about like, hey, let's do the thing. And then you go meet with the tax attorney or the tax CPA, and they go, wow, you owe an extra $35,000 or $40,000 in taxes. And you just go, oh, okay, or you get the big exit, right? And now all of a sudden $300,000 goes away to taxes. So it's a staggering impact, when people are trying to save money and what taxes do. And, this is a chart. You may not have seen this before, but to illustrate the concept of just how important protecting your money from taxes is, if you take $1 and you double it 20 times and you do it on a tax-free basis, that'll turn into $1 million. Double it 20 times turns into $1 million. On the other side, if you tax it every year at 25%, it turns into $72,000. So it's a massive difference between taxable and tax-free. And I want you to think about this not in terms of an investment as much as your own income. So when you have your income out there and you get the big bonus and you just lost 50 grand in taxes, or you sold your company or you had an exit and you paid an extra 250,000 or 300,000 or more in taxes. This is the impact that is happening over and over and over again. And that to me is why it makes it harder and harder to get from that top 10% to the top 1%. That going from 1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 5 million, 5 million to 10 million. Taxes are one of the issues that are preventing you from doing that. So, and that's where, just to drive this home even further, 250,000 in tax payments equals $1 million in lost wealth minimum. So, and that could be you got the exit right now and you paid that 250K in extra in 1 year, or you're getting hit 50,000 a year in extra taxes for 5 years in a row. How is that even possible? Well, it's a simple question. If you kept that money, could you double it 2 times over the course of your life? Maybe you do it quicker, and depending on how you're investing, maybe it takes a little longer. But those $250,000, instead of sending it to the IRS, could you grow it to 500K? And then could you grow that 500K to $1 million? And for most people, that is realistic, right? That's how money works when you grow it. If you have it available, you're retaining more of your own capital, you can use it. So this is not to say, again, that we don't have to pay taxes or we don't need to pay our fair share. What I'm more talking about is that my philosophy is that if you can retain more of your own capital, grow it, become wealthy, you have the ability to do more good in the world. You can take the values and beliefs and things that you've done to create success. You can share those and give value. That's that process of creating the modern family dynasty. But you're better apt to decide how to spread that money around and do good in the community versus just sending it off to the government and having them decide what to do with it. We need to get away from the idea that our civic duty is just paying our taxes and we're done. Our civic duty really is to become more involved in our communities and look at the ways that we can make the world a better place. And we can do that, in my opinion, by retaining more of our wealth from taxes, growing it, and then creating more sustainable finances that we can do this good in the world long term. So as we keep going, we're going to cover a lot of information. We're going to get into the first strategy of the 5. Again, we're going to build on these 5 and then go through the case studies. So if everything's cranking along and you can hear me well, content's good, feel free to type some stuff in the chat. So the first thing we're going to talk about is strategy elimination. Now, I want to make a quick note that when you look at tax strategies and eliminating taxes, this is very different from using, let me change back to that screen, from 401ks, IRAs, SEPs, defined benefit plans. These plans do not eliminate taxes, okay? There's nothing wrong with 401ks, IRAs, and those types of plans, but you pay the taxes when you take the money out. So there's a reason they're called tax-deferred plans. When you put money into a 401k, you're saying, I'm not going to pay taxes on this money now. I'm going to wait till I retire 20 plus years from now, whenever that is, and pay the taxes then. So when you do that, you're going to pay taxes, income taxes, just like you're paying now, and you're going to pay income taxes on any gains that you have. So it's all coming out as ordinary income. Now, that can either be good and bad. And so I'm going to show you how to use these in the appropriate way, but I just want to make the clarification from the difference between deferring taxes and eliminating taxes. We're going to talk about eliminating taxes. So the first strategy I want to talk about is what I call multi-generation endowments. So multi-generation endowments are the most incredible strategy that I've found in my 20 plus years in this industry, where you can reduce taxes by up to 50%. One of the things I love about it is money never leaves your possession. So if you've looked at advanced tax strategies before, a lot of times your money is going elsewhere. And then you're also losing control of that money, where in this strategy, you're able to continue to use your capital for any reason whatsoever. And it works great for years where you have income spikes. That could, again, you have an exit, you sell a business, you have a huge year, you're selling real estate. It works phenomenal for those types of events. You can reduce those taxes by up to 50%. And then it creates this long-term tax-free umbrella, but retains that access. And how this strategy got to me is, again, it was brought to me by one of my high net worth clients. His income was in the 1.5 million range. And he showed me the strategy that he'd been using for a few years to reduce taxes by 50%. So in that case, $750,000 reduction. So he got that on his taxes, saves him $350,000 a year in taxes, which is a huge number. So our process in the Wealth for Life community, I have kind of a brain trust of other high net worth clients. So we get together and we say, hey, what's wrong with this strategy? Let's see if we can break it. And for that particular strategy, that involved the law firm that sets this particular strategy up. A number of my high net worth clients get together with their legal counsel, their CPA firms. They meet with the law firms. We did this over multiple different times, at least a dozen different meetings with different attorney groups and CPA groups. And everybody goes, man, this is the real deal. It's actually been used since 1998 by the specific law firm with an impeccable track record. So by far, one of the most phenomenal strategies out there. Again, it's one of those ones while we put information in the group, or you can certainly DM me here on LinkedIn to get more information on that. But it's not one of the ones you're going to find Google, because they've kept it that way. They want this to be a more exclusive strategy for people with high incomes. So the next strategy on elimination we're going to go through that you probably haven't heard of is loan-based split dollar compensation. Loans are one of the keys to tax-free income. You've probably heard how Bezos and Musk, use loans to create income and assets. And loan-based split dollar compensation is one of those strategies that you don't hear a lot about. But you take compensation as a loan. So in other words, if your salary is $400,000, you take a $50,000 of that as a loan. Now that is not taxed as income. That goes into a structure to create tax-free income in the future. And the most high-profile case of this would have been Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh. He became the highest-paid coach in college football a few years back. Now, when he signed his original contract at the University of Michigan, created a $1.2 million tax-free income for him. And again, when you start Googling these types of strategies, you don't find a lot of information. You just think about it from the mindset, well, do you want everyone knowing that, hey, I got my $1.2 million tax-free income? Well, the rest of you just go ahead and keep paying your taxes. But this strategy has gained a lot more traction in professional sports and typically reserved for households over 10 million. But we're going to go over what's called an enhanced version of that today, where you don't have to have those net worths in that higher range. You can really do it a lot lower levels, household income over 200,000. You can do it through, and it primarily does need to be done though through C Corps or nonprofits. But for C Corps, it's another great alternative, for giving up equity. Just checking the chat real quick. Yes. So all the slides that you have today are available right now in the LinkedIn group, the Wealth for Life group on LinkedIn. So you can go to wealthforlifegroup.com or just search it there on LinkedIn, Wealth for Life group. So great alternative to giving up equity, very flexible, incredible way to kind of create a tax-free structure and reduce those taxes on the front end. That's loan-based split dollar compensation. So we're going to layer these now. So I know there's a lot more ways to reduce taxes on the front end. So real estate obviously is a big one. Most everyone's aware of that. That's why we're not going to go into that today. But those two we talked about, eliminating taxes on the front end. Now we want to build tax-free income for the future. Because if all we do is eliminate taxes on the front end, we still have the problem. We still have big federal deficits. We still have taxes coming out down the road. So it's two sides of the same coin. You have to be doing both of these. One, eliminating on the front end, reducing as much as possible. Now create tax-free income streams so you have tax-free exits on the backside. So let's get into strategy number two. This concept called tax buckets. I've talked a lot about this before. If you followed me on LinkedIn and Twitter and you've read about some of these strategies, while it is a very simple concept, this is going to be one of the things that moves the needle just about more than anything else that you do. the idea is you want to start thinking about taxes in buckets. You're going to have taxable money and tax-free money. And you're going to combine these strategies then to drop into lower tax brackets. So that's going from a 37% to a 22, things like that. And this literally can help you save 6 figures or more in taxes. So let's go into some examples, and I'm going to explain tax brackets, boring tax brackets. I'm going to do it real quick, but when you hear people say, hey, I'm in a 37% tax bracket or 35, not actually accurate. Tax brackets are done in sleeves, right? So different bands of money, like what I've highlighted here in red, is taxed at different rates. So some of the money you make, the first 10 grand, if you're single filer, is taxed at 10%, then it goes to 12%, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37. So each band of money or sleeve of money is taxed at a different rate. Now, again, we know these are going up because the Trump tax cuts are going to sunset. So the 24, for example, is going to go up to, I think, 28, and the 22 is going up to 25. So all those people in the middle, that are trying to work their way into the top 1% are going to get hit harder. So the way you want to use these, and as I mentioned, the strategies of 401ks and IRAs, the way those were designed is you were designed to be able to deduct it. Like maybe you're working right now and you're in a 32% bracket. You're going to put money in, get the deduction at 32, and then you want to be withdrawing it at the 10 or the 12% bracket, or even the 22. So you're trying to get the money in now and then withdraw it at the lower bracket. Okay. But what happens if you are all in the same bracket? If you're still in the same bracket when you retire, then a lot of that money that you're pulling out, or if taxes go up, now remember, your tax is ordinary income. Everything you take in or everything you put in, tax ordinary income, and all your gains are taxed as ordinary income. So now you're losing. Now you actually end up paying more in taxes by deferring it and waiting. And of course, if taxes go up in a larger amount, you end up even losing more. So the strategy then is to have these taxable buckets and tax-free buckets that prevent you from going into the higher brackets. And let me give you an example of that. So, in this example right here, we're just looking at, let's say you're withdrawing in a 24% bracket. I've highlighted that band, married filing jointly. I really should change this to 28 because we know it's going up, but we're going to use the 24 right now. So you have a $50,000 a year tax-free income stream coming in that you've built. Simple math, 24% times $50,000 is $12,000 per year in tax savings. 25 years in retirement, 25 times 12,000, $300,000 in total tax savings. Because you're not going up in a higher bracket. You're using your 401ks and other stuff in the 10s and the 12, and then preventing them from going up into that next level. $300,000 in total tax savings over the course of retirement. Same question we started this presentation with. Can you double that tax savings 2 times over the course of your life? You should be able to double it more, right? But 300 grows to 600, 600 grows to 1.2 million. So that 300,000 in extra dollars you pay to the IRS results in 1.2 million in lost wealth. And I would just like to highlight right now that only about 1.5% of people ever get over $1 million in their 401ks. So when you're talking about your ability to maintain your lifestyle in retirement, the ability to save on taxes, keep that money growing, has a much bigger impact than people give it credit for. So let's look at one more example. So the idea, again, even at a higher income level, let's say that you're withdrawing in a 32% bracket. You have $100,000 a year coming in. Again, simple math, 32 times 100,000 is 32,000 a year in tax savings. Multiply it by 25 years in retirement, $800,000 in tax savings. Huge number, right? And I want to, when it comes to lifestyle and your ability to maintain that lifestyle, when you look at what that money will grow to, again, can you double that $800,000 twice over the course of your, conservatively, yes. So that 800 goes to 1.6, goes to 3.2. And I know these are bigger numbers, but, really when it comes to lifestyle and retirement, there's so much of mainstream advice where, people have been taught to, hey, you're going to have to downsize your lifestyle. I like my lifestyle. We have a second home here in the mountains. I've been here for a month and a half, skipping the heat in Phoenix. We have horses. My family likes to ride. We do all this fun stuff. I don't want to have to get down to retirement and downsize my lifestyle. And if this right here, if I can prevent money from going away to taxes, it's found money. I can just keep it, let it grow. And how much more lifestyle can you maintain with an extra $3.2 million? And again, it's not to say that when you look at the advice for the 90%, is just different for those of us that are in that top 10%. We have more of a tax problem. Those in the 90% unfortunately have more of a cash flow problem. So when you look at the financial advice that is designed for those in the 90%, it's more debt reduction, keep your expenses low, downsize, all those types of things, which are true when you have a cash flow problem. But if you're in the top 10%, it's just a different strategy, different issues, if that makes sense. Okay, so everybody doing good? We're moving through. And this is why I think when you look at those tax issues that we just talked about, you're seeing baby boomers getting down to retirement already outliving their savings that they have in their 401ks. Because it's not that, okay, number one, you have a big problem. You have to navigate the stock market with your 401k. But, oh, by the way, this is tax savings. This is all going to be taxable. You're going to have to pay ordinary income taxes on all these gains. So here's a huge liability that will now take up a third of your 401k that no one told you about before. And so I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are like, what? My 401k is going to be taxable as ordinary income when I take it out? Everything, all of it, gains and contributions. So again, it's a big liability that people haven't planned for. And it's kind of, unfortunately, a big wake-up call because most people don't have a strategy to plan, for taxes. Okay, so again, that stuff will be in the Facebook group. I am getting a few questions about slides. Yes, so the slides, again, will be in the Wealth for Life group here on LinkedIn. So go ahead and make sure you join. And yes, so I was just looking at questions real quick. Only 1.5% gets to 1 million plus. Yeah, average market returns. That was actually data from Fidelity. So Fidelity just looked at their account balances, and they found that about 1.4% in Fidelity's group had over $1 million in their 401s. All right, so we're starting to build this foundation. We've gotten number 1 and number 2, which is some tax elimination on the front end, and now tax-free on the back end. And now we're going to talk about how to build those large tax-free income streams. This program is the 3-to-1 tax-free matching program. And it's another one of those asset strategies that people just haven't heard about, but it can actually 5X. All the things we try and do are 5X, actually moving the needle. So 3-to-1 tax-free matching works like this. We've provided over $1 billion to clients on a tax-free basis. That means if you're out there and you're saving 125K, we match it, adding 375K. You're saving 250K, we'll add 750,000, 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, we match it by 15 million. There's no upper limit on that matching. So it's an incredible way to bring in tax-free money to the pool and start to build these large tax-free income streams. And what that means is it allows you to save less, use less of your own capital, but get more return on the backside. So yearly income, again, if you're building, hey, I'm going to have 50 grand, when you add matching and make it tax-free, you're up to 100K. If you're building income to $100,000, it'll go to 200,000, 200 to 400. So you can really build some pretty large tax-free income streams using this particular strategy. And the key thing here is with this strategy is that there are no personal guarantees by you. There's no interest payments by you. It's all tax-free. You're not taking out a loan. You're not on the hook for those matched funds. It's a very unique structure, and it's really, kind of an enhanced version that they use for the Jim Harbaugh strategy to create his tax-free income streams. So this version, again, will go down. You don't have to have those 10 million net worths. Again, not new strategies, but we have enhanced this in versions now where we can do this with incomes over 200K. And it works extremely well, in creating those tax-free incomes. I call it the low-hanging fruit. We've actually put a lot of research and due diligence into these online portals that we have, which are just some of the resources that we provide. We'd like to have you doing a lot of due diligence on your own. But we have calculators here where you can go in, you can put in age and contribution levels. It's going to show you the amount of tax-free income that you can create. And also within the online portals and stuff we have, you can read from our other clients and how they're using them. CIO of Levi Strauss, the CEO of 806 Technologies, people from all different areas of life. Here are people in the medical profession, financial analysts. You'll see information from CPAs and due diligence. It's one of the assets that has some of the most due diligence done you will find, obviously because of this unique financial structure where you have this 3-to-1 matching. So when you have the fact that banks will come in and match those assets to a tune with no limit, no interest payment, no guarantees, incredible amount of safety that goes into that. And it really applies what is actually strategy 4 of ours for today, which is the next principle that the wealthy are using to 5x wealth, which is financial leverage. So this is one of the most important concepts. I know the tax piece is absolutely huge, but if you understand this, leverage, larger amounts of money in safe assets beats less money in risky assets every time. So when you go out there and you're saving on your own, you get this linear path to wealth. You hear this whole thing about how compound interest takes 30 and 40 years. Using leverage accelerates this process. Leverage is the big mover. In fact, this is one of my favorite quotes here from Ray Dalio, is many people still confuse leverage with risk, but the reality is that levering up low risk assets so you can diversify away from risky investments is risk reducing. Leverage reduces risk. So here's what happens. The average investor chases risk with their own money and they get upset when they lose. The wealthy use large amounts of other people's money in safe assets and they win every time. And that to me is just, if you can get that concept down, it will accelerate your wealth more than just about any other strategy you can use. So I'll say that one more time. The average investor chases risk with their own money, gets upset when they lose. The wealthy use large amounts of other people in safe assets and they win every time. So that's what this strategy is kind of designed to do. We typically see 5 times more income versus current strategies of what people are currently doing, 75% less out of pocket because you're getting 3-to-1 match. And now you're combining these tax-free income streams with what we talked about. We're eliminating taxes or reducing as much as possible in the front end. Now we're going to have a tax-free strategy where we can use to drop to lower tax brackets that can save that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, end up moving into wealth, millions of dollars in the distribution phase just by having this tax-free bucket. So I'm not going to go into all the details in that strategies today. We actually have specific webinars, but some of the highlights: you only contribute for 5 years and you're done. We like that because it's a very clean long-term plan. You can save less to reach your goals, and you can retain your capital for other uses. I will mention though that you can do this individually or through companies. And so for companies, it's an outstanding tool to attract and retain top talent because you can offer tax-free pension type income streams for people, have 75% of the funding done by us, no personal liability, no company liability. And it's a very unique benefit, that can be offered, for companies. Okay. So we're moving along. We're layering our 5 strategies. I'm just checking my time here. We're going to talk about strategy number 5, financial defense, and then we're going to jump right in to the case studies. So we talked about eliminating taxes on the front end, having tax-free exits. So we're at both 2 sides of the coin. You got to have tax-free on the front end, tax-free on the back end. Building those tax-free income streams, using financial leverage. Now our last one is financial defense. Financial defense, again, I would say defense wins championships. So let me get back to this screen in particular. So there's a framework that we follow where you start separating assets into offense and defensive assets. Offensive assets, of course, is what everybody knows: higher risk, higher reward, no downside protection, going to be taxable. This is where most people are. Remember, we started the webinar with my upside down pyramid where people are all offense, max taxes, 1 income. What you want to do is add defense. Defense are things like present and future cash flow. So you think of things like business income, rental income, tax-free matching strategy that we just talked about. Have a system to lock in profits. So it's not all paper gains, right? The market must appreciate. Gains are on paper. You have to sell at the high point. So you want to have a system that locks in profits, whether it be business income, again, you're taking profits, or real estate, rent, collecting rent, tax-free matching, they're using options, generating income. So all of those things are giving you money coming in. So no matter what's happening in the world, you have your bases covered. And then defense protects from taxes. Taxes as big a threat, or maybe the biggest threat, like we're talking about today. Tax advantage or tax-free, and assets that don't move together is the next part of defense. So we've been taught, I would say, conventional wisdom, defenses are diversifying among stocks and bonds. The defense really means different types of assets that don't move together. Businesses are certainly one of the biggest ones. If you want to look at the largest asset class for those in the top 1%, it's owning businesses. Okay, so if you want to get wealthier, own a business. A big advocate of that. Real estate certainly would be the second one. And the myth here is that all offense equals more wealth. So if you look at the loop that is typically created when you are all offense, markets get volatile, you start to make emotionally bad decisions, and then that loop repeats, right? So you keep trying to play catch up. And we see this over and over again with, people in the market, which I understand. It's extremely difficult. But what did you hear? I was down 20% this year. I couldn't stand it. I went to cash. Then you go out of the market, then you go back in at the wrong time, and this continues to chase. Now, the first step there is have more assets so that you're not all in on the market. And that's where, when you get to a strategy of where you're using offense and defense, you start getting better results. Offense and defense, markets get volatile. You have opportunity thinking because your bases are covered, right? The old saying, never go to Vegas with scared money. And now you have increased wealth. And this is a loop that continues to repeat. Your wealth will increase when you're using both offense and defense. But unfortunately, most people are only using just all offense. So defense works in this way. You build a defensive framework first. This way, no matter what happens, you'll have income coming in. It reduces fear when life is volatile because your bases are covered. And this financial stability increases your offensive radar. So that is actually a huge deal. When you think about offense, stocks, crypto, startups, acquisitions, defense, businesses, real estate, tax-free matching strategies, all those things that provide income no matter what. Now, myself, having been self-employed for almost 25 years, I would say the first 15 years of those, I did not have the passive income strategies. And anyone out there who owns a business, supporting a family, and when you're the entrepreneur and it's Sunday night and there's still work to be done, you're like, man, no one else is going to do it. Entrepreneurship is tough. Owning a business is tough. And I can tell you the difference from where I'm at now, where I have these income streams that I know my family's lifestyle is covered, whether I'm working or not, is massive for what it does for my opportunity radar. My ability to grow my business, my ability to capitalize on other opportunities goes through the roof when you have this level foundation of where your bases are covered. That is defense, right? So that's defense. And it takes you from, going from where people are, and this is where you don't want to get to, where you get down to retirement and you have all your assets in a 401k. Or stocks. And again, I'm not anti one of those. I'm an investment advisor. We use stocks. I sell stocks. But it's just not where you want to get down to retirement and have all it in, because as points out, this is the first time that the 401k generation enters retirement. This is the first time they've been trying to use a 401k for retirement. It's a new social experiment, right? Baby boomers are just now entering retirement. And what they're finding is there's this perpetual feeling of insecurity. And if you think about this, and I really blame this, this on conventional wisdom. And I really have a big issue with my own industry, because mainstream financial advice is all about the stock market. The 99% get advice about the stock market. The top 1% get advice about all other different types of assets. But what happens is most people end up with this one thing retirement plan. They get down to retirement. In order for that to be successful, the market must continue to go up. And it's just mind blowing to me, because you work your whole life where you have an element of control. You're saving, you have some control over what you're saving, and then you get down to retirement, and then everything that happens from that point forward is outside of your control. You don't know what's going to happen in the market. You don't know what's going to happen with taxes, but now you just got to sit there and take it. That's not how it needs to be. That's not the best way to do things. And that's why we do these groups and these events, to try and let people know about the other strategies that are out there, so that you can really go from this area of where most people are on the left, where it doesn't feel safe, to this area of where you can be, scaling wealth, reducing taxes, building multiple income streams. That's the process I call, of creating that modern family dynasty. And at the end of the day, when you start doing those things, it's going to get you to where we started, having more control over your financial life, the ability to control assets, control taxes, control income. That's what leads true financial security. All right, so now we covered the 5. I'm going to take a quick drink, and then we're going to get into the case studies and see how all of these things apply. Okay, so we've layered on our top 5, eliminating taxes and reducing on the front end, tax-free income streams on the back end, having tax-free exiting so we can drop to lower tax brackets, save money on taxes, building tax-free income streams. That 3-to-1 matching is the low-hanging fruit of tax-free income streams, very easy to implement, uses financial leverage, lets us retainer on capital and get more results. so we can, again, funnel that capital into other opportunities, into our businesses, into other things that we have. And then building financial defense. So we have a number of these defensive assets in this pyramid here would be controlling assets. So we're controlling our income, and that's going to help us get wealthier over time. So case study number one, $7 million in tax-free. We'll kind of walk you through it. The way Restream works on my slides, I'm used to having animations so I can direct these. So I'll just kind of walk you through it. Starting on the left, this was a separate client that had income about 1.4 million per year. We're using that structure, the multi-generation endowment structure that I talked about earlier in number one, 50% reduction in AGI in his case. So again, retaining the access to capital. That is critically important because while it seems like, wow, you must be killing it with 1.4 million in income, in a normal situation, after you pay some taxes, maybe you invest in some real estate, you get over leveraged a little bit, you have a few things happen, a hurricane or this or that, you'd be surprised how easy it is to get a little bit of a cash flow crunch even at those levels. So being able to come in now and save $350,000 a year in taxes is a big deal, which is why in this case, we're just moving more of that to lifestyle. So, we can enjoy more life along the way, reduce financial pressure, easy peasy, it's great. Then we're going to take, and now we're in the middle thing of the flow chart here, 200,000 is going into the tax-free bucket. That's going to build to over 1 million in tax-free funds over 5 years. And the way this bucket is structured with that 3-to-1 matching, so now that 1 million gets $3 million in tax-free matching. So now all of a sudden we've created a $4 million tax-free asset. That asset is going to grow, and then it's going to kick off 280,000 a year tax-free from age 65 to 90, giving us $7 million in tax-free distribution. That was all done from tax savings. Again, this was created from money that would have gone to the IRS. So this strategy, again, will also work high income, high W-2, business sales, income spikes. There's a lot of ways that it can be used, but it generates a massive amount of savings in a pretty easy fashion. Not that there's not due diligence and work and meetings with counsel and other things that happen in these strategies, but it's not as hard as it used to be, that's for sure. All right, so this strategy, $11 million in tax-free savings, actually. Well, I know these are big numbers, but we've talked a little bit about how the money you retain can compound and grow. So this is a C Corp tax strategy using loan-based split dollar. So we went over that loan-based split dollar compensation. The big case was Jim Harbaugh and how they used that. We're able to do this on an enhanced version at a smaller level. So in this case, the C Corp loans $200,000 to the partners. Each partner, they are not taxed as ordinary income on that because it's a loan, right? Loans are one of the keys to tax-free income. Now there is some AFR rates, so you do have to pay an interest rate on that. The IRS does tracks that. So in this example, that interest rate that you're paying on that loan works out to you're owing $3,000 in taxes on the year versus had you paid income taxes on the $200,000, the taxes would have been, $70-some thousand. So a pretty big reduction. They'll use a strategy there where the loan can either be paid off at death through an insurance policy or the loan is forgiven. We're not going to get into the technicalities of that, but that's what happens when we go through these strategies, meet with counsel and CPA firms and everything else. And so $200,000 pre-tax now, pre-tax is the holy grail. We haven't paid tax on this $200,000. Now we have $1 million going into our tax-free bucket. We've generated $485,000 in tax savings. That $1 million tax-free bucket combined with the $3 million for the tax-free matching program, the matching worked out to $2.7 million in this case. So there's $3.7 million in tax-free asset now creating and growing. That's going to kick off $364,000 in tax-free income, generating a yearly tax savings. Remember, dropping to lower tax brackets, $127,000 in tax savings, $11 million in distribution. So again, big numbers created by using different strategies. And when you go out and you kind of start to look at these strategies and you don't find the information out there, it's because that becomes the impediment, right? And we've had this before when you go out, and that's why we kind of put a lot of these resources and have detailed conversations in the group. And you can certainly DM me on these. Most CPAs aren't familiar with it. And that's a problem because what happens when a CPA doesn't know something, their default answer is no. So, and I even had a good friend of mine who was a CPA, a tax attorney, and a CFP. He had all the designations. And he's like, when strategies that I'm not familiar with come across my desk, my default is no, because I don't want to have to take the time to research it. And that happens a lot in the industry. But once you get beyond that and you start looking at other firms, this strategy is used all over the place. It actually is very popular in the Fortune 500 and nonprofit space. It just doesn't always make it down to smaller companies and partners and things like that. But it does work great for C Corps too. And I'm still shocked at how many tech companies don't have strategies like this for their key people, because they could certainly retain a lot of top talent using strategies like this. All right, so now we're going to go to our third case study. So again, all these cases, again, you don't have to be making millions of dollars to make these strategies work. This was a 48-year-old we worked with, and really his only risk was not saving enough because taxes were eating his wealth, and he was worried about potential market crashes. So we just simply used the tax-free matching strategy, 3-to-1 tax-free matching. It creates a tax-protected asset. He has a 0% floor in there, so he's not losing. He makes his $50,000 contribution for 5 years. $250,000 goes in. He gets a $700,000 tax-free matching on that. So now we've created a $950,000 tax-free asset. That's going to kick off $56,000 in income in the chart on the far right. Now, if you remember from dropping into lower tax brackets that we talked about, there was an example where we used a $50,000 tax-free income stream. And it saved, I think the number was $300,000 in taxes over the course of distribution. Double that money a couple of times, $1.2 million. So again, you don't have to be in these huge high income positions, but this found money, using money in a more efficient way, is able to create massive amounts of tax savings. $2 million in distribution plus the $300,000 in tax savings. I guess that goes to, I doubled it 3 times there, $1.8 million in tax savings. So, I mean, it can be a huge different number that then can be folded into lifestyle. So again, just the ability to enjoy more life along the way, not only when you're in retirement, but now that more of your future income needs are covered, you don't have to save as much to reach your goals. You can have more fun along the way, frees up your capital to capitalize on more opportunities. And this steamrolling effect is what will then continue for wealth to grow. All right, so we are getting down towards the end here, checking my time, pretty good on time. But that's my basic presentation today, using these strategies to get off the hamster wheel, where again, you make more money, taxes eat it up, you keep chasing. These are the strategies that can help you get off the hamster wheel. And the best thing to do today I can recommend, and I see that the link was posted there from James on how to get into the Wealth for Life group. You can certainly DM me with any of the questions that you have here on LinkedIn, but join the Wealth for Life group here on LinkedIn. These slides are already available, and this recording will be in there, and again, some of the other resources. And we'd love for your participation in the group, to comment and even ask questions. So if there's strategies and things you're seeing or you would like to see, make sure you post those in the group and we can go through it. So now I'll take a little bit. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in. I know a lot of people jump in and out. A lot of people are watching the replay. So I'm going to check the comments. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Golden handcuffs. Victor, if you have that question. It can be used as the golden handcuffs, but it can also be set up. Really, it's very flexible if you're talking about using that tax-free matching for a C Corp. That can be used in different ways. Excellent. All right, I'll give everyone just a couple more minutes. And if you have questions, type them in. Please join the group, and we'll kind of go from there. These slides will be available. Glad you found it informative and helpful. Very good. Appreciate that comment. All right, I'm going to do a couple of admin things if you guys have any additional questions. And if you did enjoy this live stream, please make sure and leave a comment. That actually helps LinkedIn show the live stream a little more, I think. So if you did enjoy it, any comments you can leave would be much appreciated. The part on the triple tax free part. So the 3-to-1 tax-free matching, this replay will be up in the group, and also there are more. I have actually a whole detailed webinar on that. So if you join the LinkedIn, the Wealth for Life LinkedIn group, or you have specific questions, you can certainly DM me there. That is Tom. So those resources will be in there. The webinar on the tax-free matching goes into really deeper dives on that particular strategy. And that will be up. It'll probably take me a little bit to edit. Just I'll edit out the front of this live stream because we had it started 10 minutes early and nobody wants to look at the screen for 10 minutes. So, but all good information. I'm glad you guys appreciated it. And I'm going to check a couple of the uploads here, and I'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll kind of end for today. All right, there we go. All right, thanks you guys. I appreciate everyone joining the webinar, and I look forward to seeing you in the group. Thanks again for the comments, and have a great rest of your day.